I wish I could say that I did something so profound, but it wasn't me. It really wasn't. It was just so God.
Motherhood is messy, it's beautiful, exhausting, rewarding, and here at Mom Life, we are diving into all of it. I'm Jodie, and together with some amazing friends, we're gonna talk and laugh and pray and just encourage one another in this beautiful adventure that is Mom Life. So today, I am just so thrilled to welcome my dear friend, Alexa PenaVega.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, Lex, I'm so glad you're here. Well, you have been in more than 100 movies, and you're married. You're married to a literal rock star, y'all. I went to a big time Rush concert, and
you did.
I did, and the hype is real. Screaming teenagers, screaming mothers.
Yes.
I mean, it was.
I'm pretty sure I saw you screaming once or twice.
Well, I got into it. It was really fun. But let's pull back the curtain just a little bit, because I know people know this public, Alexa, but let us into your home life. Like, what is your family like? Tell us about your kids. What is it, Alexa PenaVega, the mom, like?
My kids they're rad.
And you have 3?
I have 4 kids. This is what I always say. We experienced a stillbirth, as you know, earlier this year, but God has just taught us so much in that, and that I'm sure we'll really touch on in depth. My kids love the Lord, and that was something that I felt like I did grow up with, even though that my household growing up wasn't I think maybe the faith-based household I have now. Yeah. It was a very loose form of Christianity where I knew about God, but I didn't know in depth the relationship you could have with God. But I craved that relationship, and my mom really did instill like Jesus roots in our hearts. So it was there. It just hadn't been flushed out yet. Whereas my kids now, like, they wake up every morning, they start praying. They pray all throughout the day, and like, I was cracking up because my son Kingston, who is my just little prayer warrior, he is so emotional, and
how old is Kingston?
Kingston's only 5, and he's my middle child. But Kingston yesterday was having a really hard time with Ocean, who's my oldest. He's 8. And Ocean was being a turd. Let's be real. He was not being the nicest. And Kingston's like, "You're being the worstest brother. Jesus, please help him be a much better brother." But I was laughing so hard because he did go right to prayer, even though he had to like give him a little sting first. He realized, I should really give this to God right now. But it's so fun raising kids up. I have loved every new season better than the last. So like my 8-year-old, I love that he can communicate with me now, and he can tell me really what's on his heart.
So fun. Every new season.
Yes, every season has been better than the last.
That is encouraging. We all have the highs and the lows.
It is. Look, there are hard moments, but truly it can be better than the last if you really seek it out.
We all as moms kind of do this mom life thing, and there are people in our friend group and our community who will second guess our parenting decisions, maybe criticizing, but most of us are not living that in the public eye. And yet you share very openly about your life. How do you handle kind of the critics, the people who push back, the comments in the,
There are lots of those. In the past, it does hurt your feelings. And it's so funny because you can have 1,000 really awesome comments and like 1 or 2 negative ones. And for whatever reason,
our brains are wired. Yes.
And then I even think about it because a lot of times people will respond to the negative ones and not to the positive ones. And you're just showing like, those people actually get fed, essentially. They get rewarded because then they get to go back and forth with you and have this thing. So I just realized, one, if my job is to go and be a light, I'm not going to please everybody. I'm just not.
That's a great word.
Like, there are so many people who do things differently than I do, and that's okay. Even within our Christian community, you're never going to be Christian enough for some people, or you'll be too Christian for other Christians. So I've just realized, all right, Lord, where do you want me? How do you want us to use our voices? And that's it. That's it. And if people don't like it, sometimes it does hurt. Like it just does. Like I really wish that some people could see my heart sometimes, because I'll say something and there will be just such a quick judgment because social media takes, I think, the heart out of everything. But then I just pray. I just pray for them. And it sounds so cliche, just like pray for them. But for real, pray for them because that's all you can do.
Let's pivot a little bit if you don't mind, because you did mention Indy. So
Yeah,
Indy,
my sweet Indy.
You were super open about your pregnancy. It was a complicated pregnancy.
It was.
Social media. And yet, even though she was born, as you say, at rest, what I sensed in you, and what I think a lot of people picked up, is that you held on to hope and even joy in the midst of that pain. Like, talk about that.
Yeah. You know, it really is a peace that surpasses understanding. And I get like goosebumps talking about her still, just because, look, we talk about her every day. She is such a part of our lives, even though she's not here. And we think the coolest thing is like, she changed the world and she didn't even take a breath. Wow. And we're like, wow, girl, how powerful are you? And, you know, that season was hard. Particularly that pregnancy was really, really hard. But I really feel like God had been prepping my heart without me even realizing it. I feel like the ups and downs that I encountered throughout that pregnancy really had me going to God, probably more than had it just been a really easy pregnancy, right? I was constantly digging in with him. I was having to just be like, Lord, what is going on? Like, I just need you. I'm having more pains than normal. Just so many little things. Now, what was wild was there was never an issue with Indy. Indy was always in perfect health. Indy wasn't the one having issues. It was me that was having issues. So it was really such an interesting thing when we lost her, because there was no expectation of losing her at all. She was always fine. And we had a heartbeat right before birth. So it was truly when we delivered her and she wasn't, you know, crying or making any noises, it was just really for us a matter of time before she took a breath. So there was this hope and not even fear, just kind of like waiting. And when it started to set in that wasn't happening, first off, like, you're exhausted and your heart is kind of going, okay, Lord, like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And ultimately what we got out of that was the attack of the enemy was always going to be there. It didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter what anybody else did. The enemy already was going to plan this attack. But because the Lord knew that, he made such a way for our family, for my kids, for our marriage. I mean, the bond that we have now, I don't ever want anybody to have to experience the loss of a child because it's awful. But the light at the end of this tunnel is we think about heaven every day and you live life so differently when you're thinking of the kingdom 24/7. I mean, like, I've never thought of heaven like that in my life. Like, you know, there's always this hope of, yes, I hope one day we get to go to heaven, and we talk about it a little bit with our kids. But when you lose a child and when your kids experience that kind of loss, they're thinking of heaven and growing up, and it becomes such a reality, that, again, like, you don't wish that on people, but you almost wish people could have this feeling, because there's a draw to God that's so different than what I had before.
So what would you say to the mom who maybe is in a complicated pregnancy right now, or has maybe lost a child, and they want to get there. They're not there yet in terms of the peace or the hope or the joy or even that grasp of heaven as a reality. Like, what would you say to encourage that mama?
You know, I wish I could say that I did something so profound, but it wasn't me. It really wasn't. It was just so God. And maybe the only thing I did was just really surrender and like fully let go. I wish I could be like, oh, I was just so perfectly in the word, or so this or that. And it wasn't. It was truly just him being so gracious. But I think it took us going, all right, Lord, like, we are so out of control here. Like, we are not in control of this at all. There isn't anything we could do to bring her back. There isn't any fight we could fight that would put her right next to us, other than knowing, like, Lord, she's yours. She was already yours, and she's just yours a little sooner than maybe my heart was ready for. But I think that complete surrender, we grieved and we moved forward. We didn't move on, but we moved forward because she's still a part of our lives.
I love that. You grieve
Yeah.
And as scripture says, we grieve, but it's not without hope. We
It's
grieve
not without
with
hope.
hope,
It
and you
really-
can move forward. You're
Yeah.
right. You're
Yeah.
right. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, of course. Listen, Indy she's such a part, like, she's on my little neck, she's on my necklace right there. She's such a part of everything that we do. And yeah, she's already transformed so many lives.
Thank you. Well, earlier too, you mentioned that you grew up in a home. It wasn't kind of your classic traditional Christian
Definitely
home.
not.
I know. But where do you look now, like as you're a mom and, you're trying to model the Christian life for your kids?
Yeah.
Where do you turn for wisdom, for advice, for parenting?
Girl, I hope you would know that'd be you, because when I have a question about something, it's usually in one of your books. For real. Because I didn't grow up in a typical Christian household, it was something I kind of stumbled into. I craved this relationship with the Lord, but I didn't know how in depth it could go. Right. And as I got older, I just started deep diving with him. And then it just was like a tumbleweed, but it just kept growing and growing and growing. And so I feel like it's really more recently that I started craving just books that help me as a mom, not necessarily parenting books, but like, how do I word this? Mom life is hard enough with trying to balance your faith and also be a good mom to your kids, but getting that prayer time in. I'm not having those 3 or 4 hour prayer sessions that I used to have before I had kids, which those are lovely. And every now and then I do get that escape where I'm like, babe, I just really need some good alone time with God. And that's been important. I carve that out. It's really, really important. But in your day-to-day, that's not possible. So even having your book, whether it's like praying scriptures over your marriage or over your kids or whichever one it is, because you've written so many now, Miss Jodie, it's just been nice having that, or even like my Bible open. And the place that I leave it open is right next to my sink in the bathroom, because I find that if I'm running around in the house, or I usually go back in there for whatever reason.
Well, we moms know the bathroom sometimes is our alone place.
No, you would think. No way. I just see little fingers under the doors, just like, Mom! But because it's open, I often will just sneak in there. And even if it's like a 1-minute read of just checking in, and it just gives you little nuggets throughout the day. And the one thing that I did with my kids that I did for me in the past, but I do now, is I have a little ding on my phone, like a little timer that goes off. And it's just this hourly reminder to pray.
Oh, I love that.
So, because I really want my kids to pray without ceasing. I really want them to understand it. Hence Kingston the other day.
Yes.
Really going into it with
at
the
all
Lord.
times, in all things.
At all times. And for them, it's just a reminder. And for me, we can go to God all the time. It doesn't matter how big or how small. So when they see Mom cooking, I am cooking and I'm talking to God. And in the beginning, it was weird. I'm not going to lie. In the beginning, when I was first just like talking out loud and cooking, I was like, this is so weird, Lord, because I feel like this is our time. So to be kind of just doing it like this, kind of like a crazy lady in the kitchen. But then it just became my norm. And now our kids, that they just talk to God like that because they know they can.
I love that. I love that. What a legacy.
It's cool.
A beautiful thing. Okay, well, I know that you're not going to be surprised by this next question because you and I have talked about it. You know my favorite movie, Spy Kids. Yes. And you know my favorite line in that movie is, and I want to get it right, you're Carmen and you say, spy work, that's easy. Keeping a family together, that's difficult. Yes. And then you say, and that's the mission worth fighting for.
It's so good.
I love that line. I've told you before, it reminds me of Nehemiah, where Nehemiah's looking out at the people and he's saying, remember the Lord and fight for your families, your wives, your homes. Okay, you deliver that line and it's so profound. I want to know now, that's Carmen the child. Alexa, the real life mom, what do you and Carlos do to fight for your family life?
Holy moly. I know. Okay. It's so weird because I don't want to say that parenting is just like the hardest job ever because it's not.
It is in some ways.
But it is like, it's super easy in some ways and super hard in others. There was this realization, and it was after Indy. We were getting ready for bed and my husband, he had just turned the shower on. He's about to get in there and he goes, the battle never stops, does it, babe? And that was a big aha moment for us. And I was like, no, babe, I don't think it does. Not until we're in heaven. He was like, all right. And he just got in the shower. And that was like the extent of our conversation. But it was such a profound thing because the battle never stops. And I feel like it is a fight, especially nowadays, to keep our kids innocent, to keep our kids living in a holy space, to keep our kids filled with fruits of the Spirit. I mean, it is a battle. It is a battle, but it is totally worth fighting, 100% worth fighting. It takes a little extra effort. My kids, we do homeschool. Mm-hmm. I know that's not for everybody, and I know not everybody's job allows that. But for us, we have sacrificed a lot of opportunities so that we could keep our family close together, especially in our industry. It is not built for family. It is not built for marriage. When you look at how many have actually succeeded, there are very few. But I know that when you are deeply rooted in kingdom-hearted values, I mean, like truly rooted, not this like Hollywood version of Christianity, which, is so hot and cold versus, or I guess I should say, is very lukewarm versus really diving in and just laying it all before God. For us, we just were like, you know what? We're going to deeply root. If that means we have to sacrifice job opportunities, that's fine. He has provided again and again and will continue to provide. And he does. Because when you honor him first in all things, he shows up. He just does.
Yeah. I love that. And I love the intentionality with which you approach parenting, recognizing that it is a battle.
Oh, it is.
And endurance is a big part.
Yeah.
Alex, when I look at you, one of the verses that always comes to mind is Romans 12:12. And that says, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And that is something that you just personify with your joy, with your patience, and with your faithfulness in prayer. And I would pray that for all of us as moms, that we too would be joyful in hope and patient in affliction, have that endurance, and to be faithful in prayer, in the day-to-day, in the cooking, in the conversations.
I love that.
All of it. Well, I'm just so grateful that you could carve out this time to be with us.
May I share one more thing?
Please.
Just one more thing. Okay, that verse, you have to text that to me.
I'll do it.
I want that on my heart. There's a verse that it was the first verse I ever memorized in Corinthians, and it is stuck with me, and it is so, I feel like it should be all of our mission, and I don't know that we think about this verse often, but Paul writes, in a race, all runners run, but only one gets the prize. Run in such a way as to get the prize. And I really feel like when you live your life that way, people are always like, what's the key to a successful marriage or a successful family? I'm like, we're in that same race. Oftentimes relationships, they're not even in the same race. They're running in different directions. But for me and Carlos, we are both on that race to heaven together. And we both took off running. And every now and then we look over and you're still running. Good. I'm still running too.
Eyes on the prize.
And your eyes are on the prize. And it's running in such a way as to get the prize. And whatever that means for your family, whatever that means for your marriage, and for yourself personally, it has to be toward the kingdom, remembering what the prize is. And hopefully that resonates with somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so
Miss Jodie.
much. Oh my goodness. Well, it is such a joy to talk with you and to share these conversations with you. And, in the description below, you will find a link to some of my favorite prayers that have been specially chosen just for you. And if you'll click that and pray with us and just know, Mama, that you are so loved, you are seen, your labor is not in vain. So keep being intentional, keep running for the prize.
Run for the prize.
Yes, and hang in there, Mama. We love you. We'll see you next time.